So I'd like to introduce a new type of feature that we're going to do in MotoIQ. We've done a lot of videos, tech stuff about individual parts, but I think we're going to do one on an entire car build-up. So I want to introduce our first car that we're going to do this build series on, and it's kind of a special car to me and maybe a lot of you too. It's a Toyota AE86 Corolla. There's a lot of things about these cars. A lot of people say they're overhyped. A lot of people say it's expensive and slow. And I kind of agree with all of that. But nostalgia and otherwise, it means a lot to me. This is one of my very first cars I owned. In fact, it's the first brand new car I ever bought. When I was my last year of college, I was working at TRD part-time. And since I was about to get my degree, they gave me a promotion to junior engineer. And with all my additional money I was getting, I wanted to celebrate by getting a new car. And I got a brand new 85 AE86. Now, I love this car. It was really fun. It was super ahead of its time, when most other economy cars were super slow and super just lame in general. The AE86 could rev to 7,500 RPM. This was back when your typical economy car could barely rev to 5. I remember I took it to the drag strip bone stock and it did a 16.9, which back at that time wasn't even that bad, not even for like a V8 car. It seems ridiculously slow today, but back in the day that was actually pretty good. So being at TRD, I modded the car. I put a mix of all kinds of TRD parts, but a lot of it was like N1 suspension, and I think I had some prototype HKS cams. I had a TRD Japan computer on it. I designed the first TRD header for these cars, the TRD Street application. So it had the prototype of that header on the car. I think when I was done, it ran something like 15.4 in the quarter mile, which was really quick, and it probably made a whole 100 horsepower on the dyno. We didn't have chassis dynos that were any good back then. You had these Claytons that were wildly inaccurate. No dyno jets or Mustangs or anything like that. But I got older. I wanted to keep the car. It was really nice, but I just didn't have room for it. I didn't have room in the garage, and I didn't want to leave it outside. And I was getting married, and I wanted to buy my wife a nice ring, so somebody offered me $9,500 for it. I think this was somewhere in the 90s, and I thought, dang, I could have this car for years and then get more money than I paid for it. Awesome. So I sold it for $97, and I kind of regret that to this day, because to this day it was one of my most favorite cars. It's something that you wouldn't understand unless you've owned an A86, I guess, but there's something about them. They're light, you can throw them around, they're nimble. They're not that fast, but they rev high, and it's just the sensation of driving it. It's very analog and very fun. And I've always wanted to get another one. I've been putting it off for probably the last 20 years. And in the meanwhile, they've gotten rare and the prices are ridiculous. And you can hardly even find one for a reasonable price nowadays. But my buddies at Life Motorsports, they were selling their shop beater car. And, it's an A86. It's complete. It's never been wrecked. It's not in the greatest shape. It's been around the block about 30 times. It has a little bit of rust, but not structural rust. Best of all, it's complete. Like, it's all there, and it hasn't been chopped up by generations of kids. It's not stock. It has a few modifications, but they're decent. The engine is a 20V 4AG. So this is the 5-valve per cylinder version of the engine that came in the AE111 Corolla. That's a front-wheel drive car, but it's converted to rear-wheel drive here. The conversion kit is pretty nice with all the good parts. There's a few things I want to change. One of them is these sock filters. They look kind of weird, and I don't think they probably filter that great, and they're so close to the end of the stack, probably kills some power. So I'm going to do something better about that. The Haltech allows this coil-on plug setup, which is cool, but they're just kind of floating here, and I want to do something about that and clean that up. The wiring is probably a universal Haltech harness that's been kind of patched up to get it in here. There's nothing wrong with it, but I just want to clean it up for reliability and get rid of some of these weird odds and ends things. The header is a Fujitsubo, but the bolt patterns are slightly different, and somebody just hacked off the end of the last cylinder of the flange, and they don't have a bolt. So I'm going to be getting some headers that are specific to the 20V, and that way the header can be fully bolted in place, no flange leaks. But generally everything is pretty clean. You know, there's the Cusco master cylinder brace, that's good. Fuel Lab fuel pressure regulator, that's good. It has a Grady oil cooler, so that's something that's needed. And you know, it just needs a little TLC. One of the things I really hate is it has a Quaife quick steering rack, but though these racks are non-power steering, and man, it's hard to turn this thing. I'm almost bending the steering wheel by trying to turn it. So we're going to put an electric power steering system in with the boost motor from a Prius. This car is lighter than the Prius, so I think that'll work. That's one of the first things we're probably going to do, because it sucks even moving this thing around the shop. You know, we're going to clean up, you know, with a Moroso oil pan and a coil radiator, and just do some cool little things to make this thing bulletproof on the track. I was talking about the Buddy Club seat mounts and why they're necessary. So Buddy Club makes the lowest profile seat mounts for the AE86 on the market. And this has, I don't know, some random, like, semi-custom ones. But one thing, the seat's really high, and that kind of sucks, because my head's almost hitting the roof, and I'm short. The other thing that sucks is, look at my legs. They're hitting the steering wheel. And this is with the steering column all the way up. So the Buddy Club seat brackets and the Sparco seats will get me a few inches lower and in a much better position. I mean, you know, I'm 5'7", and my head's hitting the roof. And if I was wearing a helmet, I mean, my head would be right in there. So, yeah. You know, thank God Buddy Club makes an easy bolt-in solution, because I don't feel like doing all the effort and cutting things up and making something custom. The door hinges have a AE86 problem. They're all worn out, so the door is sticky. In fact, it just stuck. But T3 makes some heavy-duty door hinges. We're going to put those on. Car's a few shades of ugly. We're probably going to leave it ugly for a while. So this thing will be sweet running gear underneath and ugly on the outside. And that's kind of cool. We'll leave it like that for a while, and you know, maybe if we get in a good mood, we'll fix the cosmetics. You know, the car has some kind of coilovers. They look like they could be Grady. I'm not sure. So maybe we'll leave that alone. We're going to get bigger brakes from T3. I remember as a kid, I used to do track days. I used to fade the brakes pretty good. And the best brakes we could get is maybe those Repco Metal Masters, and that was barely good enough to drive on the track, even with old tire technology. So I think with new tires, these brakes will just get smoked. So we're going to do some cool things with the brakes. Wheels, Inkei Wheels is giving us some some of their wheels that are 15 by 8, and they look like the old school Watanabe wheels. I was thinking of getting Watanabes, except they're super expensive nowadays, and they're not made anymore really, and all the ones I could find were beat up and bent and had chunks out of them, and they still wanted a ton of money. So NK to the rescue. But you know, I think you're going to like what we're going to do. One last thing is that you know, when you're doing suspension tuning on these chassis, these things were designed a long time ago, so the rigidity of the chassis is nothing like a contemporary car. So it's a really flexy, noodly chassis, and with all the suspension work, the flexy chassis could nullify a lot of that. So we're going to be doing a lot of chassis reinforcements, bolt in, and we're going to do a few weld in things to make it stiffer and make the suspension work better. But stay tuned. I think you're going to like what we're doing, and it's going to be sweet. It's going to be fun. Might not be the fastest thing in the world, but it's going to be really enjoyable. So if you like our content, don't forget to subscribe. That helps us out. Also, if you like our cool swag, you can go to MotoIQ.com, visit our web store. You can get our merch. You can also get parts of your car there. And if you want us to work on your car, go to Garage Services and fill out one of those online forms, and we'll get back to you. I guess maybe next time we'll be digging into this, and you can see some cool parts. We have a ton of parts in the office. There's a big pile. Martin's getting pissed off at me, and he wants me to get rid of them, so I got to do this.